Yes, ma'am, you are on.
Okay. Okay, let's dive into our class, or else we'll get late. I'll just brush up whatever I said last class in the last class about the globalization phase. You just stop me till where we finish our class. I'll just go. I'll rush up till the topics where I covered. 11 participants. Chalo. Okay. So we saw the uh, pre-transportation stage, and then we saw transportation stage. We saw the expansion phase, what happened in that. So there are two blocks like institutionalization phase and the identity phase. In institutionalization phase, the things will revolve only about the education systems, commissions, like Kotari Commission and all that. So that is kind of an important topic. I'll be taking that phase in the next two classes about the institutional phase, and we'll be finishing the globalization today, and we'll jump into the identify phase. You know what happened in the transportation phase and the expansion phase. In the globalization phase, when I'm jumping into globalization phase, it's just about English. What is the influence that English language has done to us, and who learned English? What are the education policies were there, and who were educated only in English? What happened with the native languages? And in this globalization phase, there is also a revolutionary phase. Saying industrial revolution, and also which is very booming, that is IT revolution. We already discussed few things about that. In globalization phase, what was a phase before this globalization? How was the people there? How was the village centered life? How was the family centered life? We have discussed all this. How was the village centered life revolving around small close-kin villages, communities were tightly bound with strong social ties among residents. They were only family-centered. There were limited exposure. They were only connected to the small communities. They don't know what is going on globally, so they were limited to their resources are very limited. Family units were central to social and economic life. Families interacted regular to meet communal needs. Skills and knowledge were passed down through the generations within families. Then next comes is rural settled existence. What happened in the rural? Most people lived in rural areas, engaging in agriculture and related activities. Life was stable there and less mobile, with families staying in the some area of generations. How feudalism as a way of life. Sorry. Okay, feudalism. How was the feudalism there? Feudalism was widely spread as a social and economic system. Leaders of families were only passing orders. Communities and regions played significant roles there. These leaders were responsible for the family protection and the governance of their closed units. Local experience influencing migration perception. People's imagination and worldwide were shaped by their immediate ancestors. Local experiences played very crucial role in local area. There was desire to extend local understanding to a broader and more universal context. Then that's an important point to discuss there. That is industrial revolution to IT revolution. Before an IT revolution, there was a revolution called industrial revolution. And what happened in the industrial revolution in the village centered rural, what happened in the rural place? That means industrial revolution went on to rural from urbanization, consumerism, and capitalism, making money happen in the industrial revolution. And if you ask what are the differences between industrial and IT? Then you can say there is life became urban, rural from urban, and it is migrative because people change from places to places for money, food, whatever it is. Repetitive mechanism happened. Like what? Individuals trained in the repetitive jobs like morning till evenings in some factories, workshops, office, men and material constituted capital there. When you compare to IT, it is different. Pressures of urban living increased. Perceptions based on the regional experience were uh, universalized. From industrial revolution to IT revolution, life became global. IT made the world very small. It because of IT. Before IT, the world looked very vast. It was beyond our limits, beyond our imagination. But when IT has come into the world, it made our life so easy, and all. The big vast world has become very small because we can interact to the every corner of the world. How a sponge can squeeze the water. The same thing happened with the IT. IT has squeezed the world into small place. From comparing to the previous things, life became global. Repetitive task. What happened with the repetitive task in the IT? Missionaries did the job, like robots and computers made our work very easy. And now latest, what is happening? The artificial intelligence has taken place. Chat GPT has took over the place, and the life has become more easy. The work, one week of work, we can finish it off in seconds or in minutes. So there is a continuous changing process in the IT things. Knowledge and concepts constitutionalized capital. And what does that mean? People got more time to think over, do the critical thinking. When the missionary is doing the work, people got time to think and put more energy into it, and come up with the new ideas, new creativity ideas. Home became office. Men and women got equal opportunities there. Pressures are different comparing to industrial revolution. Life and perceptions became global. 50% of all websites are in English. And why you're stressing here 50% of websites are English? Because we are talking about English in India. So you have to mention it there. So what happened? IT revolution has made English. So IT also, internet also made the wide world smaller, and the IT revolution has made English language also a global phenomenon because all the people understand, most of the people understand English because English has also become a global phenomenon. If you take IT giants like Google, App, Amazon, IBM, Microsoft, etc., are all are based in the English language, no other language. Like, and they give much importance to the English speaking countries. Um, Other languages find it difficult to compete with English. That is definite. English contain all information regarding almost all disciplines in the world. English language has become the language of the internet. Computer literacy and English literacy have become inseparable, interdependent on each other. English and information technology. IT revolution age has brought in a large number of new words. um, New words that result in changing linguistic map. I cannot go deep into it. You have to understand the outline of it so that you put your views and expand the topic. So when you are writing the revolutionary things and IT things, you have to mention the new words, also what are the IT words that came up into the dictionary. So these are the a few examples of that words. English and culture. There is there any relationship between English and culture? Definitely, when you come out of the context, you can say that the culture and the language goes in hand in hand. But when it comes to English, you cannot say there is a difference here. You cannot say English and culture because now English has become everybody's language. So my culture, I speak only English. No, you cannot say that. So only with the English, it happens that it is definitely it goes in hand, but English is a sort of kind of different when it comes to native language and the culture, and English and the culture. Since English has become international, it is not attached to any particular culture. That is what it is. Some of the countries, Africa, Asia, have made English a vehicle of their own culture. Words of Indian origin have found their way into English. For example, Brahmin, schooling, and such kind of words. Indian writing of idiomatic translations, other expressions like newspaper wala, and many more are there. You can check in the textbook. English outnumber the speakers of even some languages. Oxford English Dictionary lists about 900 such words. Okay, English is so widely spoken, it has often been called as a world language, the lingua franca, that is a link language. Okay, you take these lines and you elaborate. Globalization and its impact on communication, and then communication skills, we already discussed this. World has become the global village. First information revolution has reduced the space between the continents and countries. First you talk about the jet, TV, then telephone, then internet. Then there are indeed very few places on earth where you cannot connect. Enables communication, gives more mobility, ability, and more time to several things in a day. Globalization and its impact on communication is also what it helps you to do, what it made your things easy. Need not to go to library, need not to go to mall to buy something, need not even go to temple. You have e-puja, me seva, online classes, gpay, phone pay, everything you mentioned there. What has globalization did for the communicative purpose? Globalization and its impact on the English language. English has become an international commodity, and English language has remarkable ability to absorb new words and coin new words. English only have that ability to absorb and come up with a kind of hybridization happens there when you come up with the new things. And we also discussed that which era, which language has um, uh, bought in. What we discussed about the topics like Konkani, Ebonics, Pedigon, all these things. So that is what the point is. These examples highlight the deep-rooted connections among Indo-European languages, illustrating their common origin and shared futures. Chinese, Japanese find it difficult to learn English because there have a tone language, and our English languages becomes difficult for them to pronounce. Chinese understand the potential demand, hence it has adopted national policy of to make every student literate in English by the year 2008. Success in the global economy depend on good English. India has natural historical advantage in learning English. It has natural and historical. I gave you examples in the last class why it is a natural and you can see there Indo-European language. Why Indo-European languages have common features with English due to their common ancestry, uh, linguistic features like in English, you call mother, father, brother. In Latin, you call mater, pater, father. And in Sanskrit, it is like bratha, something like that. So it's kind of interrelated. The linguistic relationship, the linguistic nature is kind of relatively same with the European language and the Indian languages. That's why for us, for our tongue, it is becoming very easy to learn English rather than comparing it with some other toned languages like Chinese and Japanese. Globalization and its impact on the English language. The field begins to look more level between the child in a small town and a child in a metro's elite public school. And this is the impact the English language has created globally. What happened? It is like it is saying the child in the rural place and in the urban place or whatever it is, every child is getting the equal education. So if you compare a child in a small town and a child in a metro elite public school, they are rather the same. Thanks to interactive teaching sectors like e-learning platforms, language, this has made their life so easy. In India, around 30% of population, which equates to approximately 400 people, can speak English to some extent. This includes both fluent and non-fluent, I mean native and non-native speakers. Whatever the reason might be, the speaking of English, the number of speaking of English language is like 400 million people approximately. Strangely, even absolute illiterate people, people around us borrowed 400 words from English has part their mother tongue, like, yeah, bulb, switch, bus, fan, and there are many more which has got placed into the dictionaries. English has few rivals but not equals. Who are the rivals? That is Spanish, German, Russian, Arabic languages. The United States has become the more power mainly because it uses English. So, what is the dictionary we discussed about? That is Samuel Johnson's dictionary, when it got published, and why this got the name uh, rather than the before dictionaries, because it has set the standards of explaining the things and giving the examples, giving the pronunciation. Giving the detailed explanation, because of these kind of features. Samuel Johnson's dictionary has got his standard. It set the standard for other dictionaries what we are learning, like Oxford and many more. So this is about Oxford English Dictionary. And then communication skills in English, we have already discussed about this. This is very important topic which you have to give it a short learning it, uh, memorizing the points. What are the communication skills in English? Does it has a market value or does it has a social value? Whatever it is, I have said it has a social roles. What are the social roles you need to play on it, like greetings, announcements, introducing, interacting, doing the things in English like interviews, narrating, requesting, ordering, explaining, placing an order, expressing attitudes like apologizing, arguing, agreeing, disagreeing, expressions, one's point of view, any whatever your point of view is, participating in all the English based seminars, meetings, conferences, turn taking, etc. You also work on the accents and sensitizing, listening, understanding all the accents like British, American, African, and Indian, note making and note taking, form filling, writing letters, preparing notes, memos, orders. All this helps you in the communicating English very well. Writing slogans, advertising, conducting campaigns, arrangements, events, etc. Reference skills like dictionaries, referring your things in dictionaries, encyclopedia, railway timetables, dictionaries. So all these things helps you in the communication skills in English. And we came across a word called gift of gab. And what is this gift of gab? When you are good in all these communication skills, when you are good at all the English communication skills, you will call as a person who is gifted with the gab is valued trait to many aspects of life, allowing individuals to communicate effectively and persuasively, whether in social interactions, personal environments, or everyday scenarios. This skill can greatly enhance one's ability to connect with others in everyday scenarios. Connecting with others achieved desired outcomes. One second. Okay, we are talking about the gift of gab. So Indians whose English is good in teaching, in teachers also have a good vast future. So we were discussing about the English communication skills. After the English communication skill, I think we have stopped at this point of view last class. Is it? Did I explain Tower of Babel also? Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Tower of Babel. Tower of Babel, I say Tower of Babel is a metaphor, biblical metaphor. Just they used what happens in the Tower of Babel. um, uh, there was a king called Nebuchadnezzar, and he was constructing he wants to see God, and he was constructing a ladder there to climb up to the sky and meet God. So when they decided this, and they are constructing and then trying to climb every before that there was no other language except one language. We can call it as in Hebrew or Greek, whatever the language is. There was only single language. It's said to be as a single language, and all the people who were climbing the ladders and wanted to meet God. So they are reaching top to the sky, and what happened to the tower when God saw that they wanted to meet me and no constructing a tower, then God has distracted it, and then everybody from the towers split it and scattered in all sort of the world. They went in every corner of the place. Then from there the languages aroused. From there the languages came up. So this story, they are using it as a metaphor for the English language. What happened? English, just like that, English, first language is English. When the English people, English speaking people has scattered around the world, their native language and the English together mingled and came up with the new languages called Ebonics, Padigan, and all the things we are discussing. Ebonics is Afro-American English or Black English language, you can say. This is a byproduct of English and African American English. This is a mingle of the two cultures. So this English is mainly you can say that it is kind of a lazy, ungrammatical, and inferior intelligence kind of language, recognized as another variety of English, neither worse nor better. No, novel short stories, poems were written in Black English. After Second World War, people started to talk about the Black Power because before they were slaves. I have told you how you got this ebonics here. If you talk about English, that um, if you talk about English, that is our Indian English. These two cultures bought a language called English, and Indians language is English. When you do talk about Ebonics, it is of American language. So you have to understand which two regions are coming up with the new Englishes. So Ebonics is the new Englishes. So how did you got the Ebonics? Then American people have took this Afro American people as a slaves to work under them. So there were no, they did not go as a guest, they went as a slave. So very lately, novels and short stories, poems written by the black people came to a trend. English language has expressions like a banana, hi-fi, yum, banjo. All these languages, words are from the Ebonics. So when a normal speaking guy speaks like she works all the time, they say that she be working all the time. So the accent, the tone, the laziness in the sentence you can see in the Ebonics. Next comes Pedigree English. In Pedigree English, often referred to a simple Pedigree. It is only Ebonics. When we talk about Ebonics, it came because of the slave. They went as a slaves. Here China people are not slaves, they just used it for the communication. So both the people, if when they are doing the business, when they are trading, the opposite person also don't know English and this person also don't know English, but they have to communicate in one language, which is a common language, that is English. When the two people are speaking in such kind of vocabulary, the new English is formed, that is Pedigree. Children of China people listening to the parents speaking such kind of English, they come up with the children will come up with a new language called Creole, that you have to understand. Pedigree English, offered often referred to the simple as Pedigree, is a simplified form of language that develops as a means of communication between groups who do not share a common language. It typically arises in situations where speakers of different languages need to communicate for trade, work, for social interaction, but lack a shared language. Pedigree English specifically is an English-based Pedigree which incorporates elements of English vocabulary and grammar with those of other languages. Pedigree comes from the Chinese pronunciation of the English word business. Pedigree evolves to be Creole. That is what it is. And then comes Cockney. Cockney is a distinctive dialect of English traditionally spoken by the working class of Londoners. This is Cockney came out from the Londoners who are working class, not the slaves, particularly these in the east end of London. It is known for its unique accent, slang, and rhyming slang. Here are some key factors and interesting aspects of Cockney. Cockney speakers have distinctive accents and dialects and occasionally use rhyming slang. London Cockney derived from Koken, which is cock's egg. It is also is taken as a bad English. Cockneys drop letters and slur words in many different way. So old becomes old, your becomes your, tomato potato becomes tomato potato, lot of becomes lotter. The American English spelling, grammar, and then African in Australian twang. I think we all discussed that I did not come with the reggae. This is this is another um, kind of in two mixed culture English, which is originated from Jamaica in the late 1960s. It evolved from earlier forms of Jamaica music. This is a kind of hip hop uh, speaking hip hop language, hip hop speaking music, artistry literature kind of thing. And in your textbook, it is wrongly spelled. It is saying as reggae, but I don't think it is reggae. It is reggae. R-E-R-A has misspelled, I think so. So reggae is a heartbeat of Jamaica. You can say it is heartbeat of beat of Jamaica. In Jamaica, standard English words take no meanings and pronunciations. There are a long way from English of Londoners or New Yorkers. In Jamaican English, a word like form can be pretend to be as a sentence. So there's a lot of difference. Um, in Jamaica, people say that many are denied access to education because of the education system operates only in English. It must be stated that the international power of English is the force that arrests the full separate development of a Caribbean English. School teachers teach a Caribbean version of standard English rather than the nationalistic Caribbean English. Most parents send their children to school for education, want this to achieve the weakening of the dialect. So this is something like the same situation happened in India with Indian teachers. Like in English medium schools and colleges teach an Indian version of standard English, and the children take the local version. So the next comes our English, that is the Indian version of English used in India has become a medium of expression like all the other languages like we were discussed before. So words like Kumbh Mela, sadhus, ceremonial dip, and Mahasana, and so many language, so many words, lati charge, you take it, ladi charge, or jungle, jute, such kind of words, comes with the mingle of the two cultures. There are so many philosophical regions and culture expressions are used by the people in India in a day-to-day life. In English newspapers also, in the print media also, there are few words with come ups with the kind of lathi charges. Filmmakers and creative writers also come up with the new words. And the priests in religious purpose, in priests or church pastors also, and then they come up with the new religion words, so it is like intermingled. There is a distinct Indian coloring, which who said that Raja Ram Mohan Rao said that the tempo of Indian life must be infused into English expression, even as the tempo of American or Irish life gone into the making of theirs. We in India think quickly, we talk quickly, and when we move quickly. There must be something, he said that there must be something in the son of India that makes us rush, tumble, and run on. So what happened in the 1976 Oxford dictionary included 32-page supplement of Indian words, and it is continuous change in the Oxford dictionary. They are keep on adding and removing few things, adding few things. A number of words like satyagraha after the independence. Also, they added few words like satyagraha, razakars, Naxalites. So idli, achar. These words also got placed into the Oxford dictionary. Like this, there are many other Englishes. Like we are discussing only about reggae, which is from Jamaica. English is from India, and African English, and we discussed about Ebonics, and we discussed about Pedigin. So like this, there are many other Englishes also. If you take from other countries, we don't have time to discuss all the other Englishes, but they do have Pakistani English is there, Bangladesh English is there, Sri Lankan English, etc. Since every nation claims that it has its own variety of English, Indian English has been successfully recognized within the country and outside also. As American and British, we talk about accents. If we talk about accents, they we have a particular place in accent also, like American accent and British accent and African accent. Like that, Indian accent also has a particular place in this world when comparing to all other languages like Pakistanis, Chinese, and all. Ever since nation claims it has its own variety of English, Indian English has now been successfully recognized within the country and outside as institutionalized on its own terms. So, Indian writers in English like Arundhati Roy, Vikram Seth, Bharat Mukherjee, Raja Ram Mohan Rai, Mulkraj Anand, and so on, nationally and internationally. The emergence of dictionaries of Australian English and Canadian English, American English, Jamaican English, and South African English were clearly show that English is no longer the language of any culture or nation. When you, I think there is a question they asked last time in the exam, that is uh, English uh, English is a culture based. Some question has come relating to that. So you can specify about these things and say and conclude it saying that every nation claims that its English is an expression of their own culture, but English is no longer the language of any one culture or nation. It is everyone's culture and it is everyone's nation. The language that has its own family, that is no longer just of Britishes or Americans. The cross-culture spread of English is unprecedented and unique. Probably it is a language that could unite the world and bring about a global consciousness. Users of English may be confronted with different versions of the language, but the process of globalization may bring about the standardization in the years to come. The cultural, social, economic, and political forces have made English the first world language in human history. The richness and power of English can inspire astonishing effect among those who use it. It is in fact more expressive and rich than the any other language. A very good of globally understood language this is. Without proper standardization may bring about the decline of if you don't standardize the education system, or if you don't standardize in bureaucratic system or any system, English can decline. It may bring the English language to down. When a language is allowed to become so flexible that anything goes in the name of the functional communication, people start to take liberties with it. There is a risk of atomization with too many of its indulging versions, where every continent and every country has its own English. A stage might come when one set of English speaking people might not be able to understand another group of English speaking people. The sheer spread of English has forced it to become mere tool of communication, shown of style and aesthetics. English may become a victim of its own success if there is no standardization. So there ends the globalization phase. So if they ask to write about the global phenomena, you will come from the starting. And if they ask you to write the short notes on any new Englishes, or whether it may be Ebonics, Pedigree, Cockney, Reggae, or English in India, you can do it. There is also maybe there is a question can come out with the relationship between the language and culture and the communication skills. These four are the important topics over here in the globalization. One is relationship between the language and culture. So you have to elaborate as much as possible in that, how the cultures are, and when the culture goes with the English language, when the two mingle with the two languages, what happens. So and there is a question there, and if they ask in the short answers, like short notes about, maybe they ask about the Ebonics or Paddington or any, you go with that. And English as a global phenomena, you can write and write and write so much, as much you want. So that's a simple question. So when there is a next topic comes, what it is like post colonialism versus neo colonialism. So First of all, we should understand, before entering into our brief topics, let us understand what is colonialism. So what is, where, from where the word is derived. Let's see the hierarchy chart there. So first, colonial, I think, is it's from the Latin word, and it is came from the word called colony. Colony is nothing but a farm, a settlement, or the land state, etc. This is the linguistic meaning for the colony. So what happened to this colony? So what all the words came from the colony? We'll understand that. So in 16th century, we said it as a colony. The word colony in English, according to etymological dictionaries, was borrowed from the Latin and used in only the 16th century. So it is just used in the 16th century. They understood the word colony as a farm, settlement, land, state, etc. Then when we reach to the 17th century, the colony has become colonized, and from 17th century, the colonized became colonial, colonist, colonialization, colonialism. So there are many words, they came up as the century is going on. There are many versions of this colony. They made, the things have changed, they called it new things. So before understanding uh, what is neo-colonism and colonization, let understand there is also a term called post-colonization, decolonization. So there's so many more to it. So we must look at the magnitude of the pressures on the ordinary people of the vast subcontinent, that is Indian continent, and from the European continent, what all the revolutionary changes has happened before independence, after independence, all these things together, we'll understand the term called.
Neocolonization.
Yeah, one second. There is a problem with. Hmm. So, okay. Are you there? You're understanding, right? Are you getting me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, yeah, ma'am. Yeah. So here, I have differentiated it to make you understand, and you'll understand it very precisely. Post-colonialism is a theoretical approach which is concerned with the political or the social condition of the former colonies. When it is neo-colonialism, is a policy of the powerful developed countries use of economic, social, political, cultural influence to spread their hegemony to the previous colonies without demeaning their national status as colonies. And here, what is hegemony? Hegemony is nothing but the leadership or dominance over one group over the other group, whether it is socially or for business or whatever it is. The hegemony is that, the meaning of that hegemony. Post-colonialism deals with the theories of decolonization, othering, diaspora, gender, feminism, racism, regain of the lost national identity, criticizing the brutal practice of the colonizers. Neocolonialism deals with the theories of capitalism, cultural, and economic imperialism. Now, as we started our topic called English in India, first we discussed the topic called settlers and colonizers. So there, first time you came up with the colonizers. There we discussed who are settlers and who are colonizers. Settlers are the people who came to settle down permanently, and we call them as in our book we call them as Aryans, right? So yeah, if you give a latest example for the settlers, the people who go from India and try to settle in the abroad countries, they wanted to settle there, they wanted to get the PR there as a permanent residence, so they can call it as settlers. They did not come to go uh, make money and come back. They wanted to settle there. So that is a live example we can give for the settlers. And what are the colonizers? Colonizers are the people for some benefit, whether it might be for trading or any other thing. For some benefit, if they are coming and settling here, I mean not settling, but they are coming here and making the small colonies, and they are not permanent here, though those people are called colonizers. Now here, when we are talking about globalization of English language in India, what is this about post-colonialism and neo-colonialism? So after English came into our place, what happened before and after is things features you need to understand. So post-colonialism is talking about theoretical things, and neo-colonialism, and that neo is nothing but new. Neo-colonialism, what is it is talking about? It is talking about the powerful developed countries. There it is talking about political and social condition. So there is a topic called dynamic powers. Who are the dynamic powers that are ruling now in neo colonialism? And before getting into dynamic powers, what is a colonialism? Has different manifestations: political power, muscle power, money power, language power, literary power, discursive power, etc. Colonialism and power dynamics. So these are the powers: political power, muscle power, money power, language power, literary power, discursive power. These are the power of dynamics in the neo-colonialism uh, era, have become the central concern of the post-colonial or non-colonial. Post-colonial or non-colonial is none other than the same. It is worth considering what may be called the politics of education in colonization and decolonization are generally mistaken. Only it is meant to be as a political process, perhaps because of the linguistic and etymological associations. This does not mean that there was no colonialism or colonists before European. You should there arises a question. You are talking about colonialism only after the European countries has invaded us. That means, don't we have the colonizers or colonist things before European countries? No, it is not like that. We do have. Every dictionaries even today define colonialism as a practice by which a powerful country controls less powerful countries. That is what it is. So you need to understand the deeper meaning of it. Colonialism is nothing but the any powerful person or powerful people or powerful place takes over the less powerful one. That is what it is, and use their resources in order to further its own interest, wealth, power. So if they took the powerful has taken control over the powerless, and they take whatever they want, they trade, they control over the people, they make them slaves, whatever it is. This has done only not in the British time or in the European times. We had our own. So we have our kings before the Aryans have entered into our country. History speaks about we had our kings, we have our rulers, and rulers always tend to dominate on the powerless. So this is also a kind of called as a colonization. So it is not meant only, colonialism is not, the word came up with the Britishers, but colonialism is not meant only from the European. It has, it is been doing, it will do that will be there in the future forever. So because any powerful thing will be under the control of the powerless. So, in the last decade or so, the word colonialism is used in several other meanings and contexts, representing new notations that were dormant. There are several avatars of colonialism in the form of neo-colonialism, economic colonialism, etc. And these expressions are widely used, which implies after colonialism. Neo-colonialism is nothing but after colonization, what happened. But as we know, colonization never ends, as I said. And some of the scholar, they said the colonialism has started from Adam and Eve. When it is in a biblical context, the world has started, the universe has started from Adam and Eve. They say that. So they are saying that. I mean, it is example like things they are saying that colonialism is there from the person who was first arrived in the world. So from there, the colonialism is there. Colonialism, you need to understand that the powerful will be taken care. The powerful took over the things from the powerless. These dynamics are innate of human tendencies. Seeing, if we see in a peaceful perspective, or if we see in a broader perspective, if we think that colonialism is there in every human, it is a human tendency. We try to, the boss, for example, if we working in any IT field, the boss has to, the boss is powerful and he is taking control over the powerless who are the subordinates. In the same way, if we take a school, for example, it is say the principal has all the powers to, to take control over the things, whatever it is a good or bad. We have to listen to our bosses, we have to listen to our subordinates. So this kind of variation is there from Adam and Eve. So colonialism is there from that time, but the word has turned up his the word has come into the world from from the time of European invaders. So this colonialism is kind of an human tendency. It is better to use the term neo-colonialism to talk about the different manifestations of the power politics which we had. We must look at the magnitude of the pressures on the ordinary people of this vast subcontinent, as vast as varied as Europe, in order to understand the multi faced phenomena called neocolonialism, a vast area deeply entrenched for centuries in oral traditions and religious practices was converted into illiterate. The vast area, deeply entrenched for centuries in our oral traditions and religious practice, when converted into an illiterate country by print capitalism and English education, the written word was established over the voice of the people, and the education was equated with the literacy. So they have been exploited by various groups through a written constitution, written rules, regulations evolved by the British by the Macaulay Plan. You can call them interpreters, urban elites, leaders, politicians, bureaucrats, and many more. So if you come to the Indian version, you will call them babus, and you will call them mem sabs, or you can call them brown sahibs, Euro Indians, rajas, maharajas, nawabs, many more. So they have taken over the mask of conquest from the British and have repainted them with the nationalist colors and patterns. Call them masks of nationalism. What are the masks? Masks of regionalism and masks of fundamentalism. The products of the technological education, the gifted or the privileged English educated minority, are everywhere in the education, in government offices, in politics, in judiciary, in media, in administration, and many more. These language is also called as we discussed, is the Christian tongue or the chosen tongue. The invasion of the satellite network, the influence of emerging TV, the landscapes is very vast, but the canvas is so small, and the brushes are not very strong, such as the story of the neocolonialism. So that there is a vast to tell. But the brushes are very strong, the and the canvas is very small. So what happened when we come to the context like India or Bharat? The struggle continues. The subcontinent. What is the struggle? The struggle is someone has took over the place, that is British, and we want freedom. Their language has entered into our language. We cannot separate the English from our language. If we tend to also, we don't wanted to separate that from our language. Even the British has gone, we are still learning English language because we know the importance of that. And after Britishers are gone, after we got independence, there are few people they wanted to take the language back. If the Britishers are gone, English should also go. So they wanted English should not be the part of the education system. And then there was again the topic called the English should be there because English is no global language. They understood it. So whatever the process is going on, that's a continuous process. The struggle is for forever. You cannot change it. So the subcontinent has a rich pluralistic asset. There is a term called pluralistic. You need to remember. Pluralistic also has a way to discuss. I think so. I have okay. Remember that when you are talking about neocolonialism, you should write about the pluralist because what is pluralist? Pluralist that is our capital. Capital is a form of power, not only economic but also social and culture. And you have to mention it's a continuous kind of struggle for English. We must capitalize on a rich pluralistic asset, a multilingual, multicultural, multi-religious, multi-ethnic society has done a lot with the heteroglossia, the multiplicity of interaction. As Ghulam Muhammad Sheikh rightly points out, living in India means living in several cultures and times. So what is the topic called multi-pluralist? Can you please wait? I'll slide the thing to the pure. Okay, India is a pluralistic, and we always work about alternatives. So we tend to learn, we tend to move, we tend to stop. So we accept everything which is coming on our way. In a simple term, saying India is a pluralistic means that India is a country that embraces and celebrates a wide variety of cultures, religion, languages, and traditions, as we discussed on the first day of our topic. The languages about the Indian country. This diversity is a core part of Indian identity and is reflected in many aspects of Indian society. India's pluralistic nature is a testament of its ability to embrace diversity in all its forms. This diversity enriches the nation, making it as a mosaic of cultures, languages, and traditions that coexist and flourish together. this is about the Indian pluralistic. When you talk about Indian pluralistic, you should proudly speak about the diversity of the languages and how many languages we have. What are the cultures, languages, traditions? The diversity is the core part of that's the main thing of our India, to identify India. So the aspects, the Indian aspects, the Indian society, we tend to embrace all the languages, all the cultures. We do have a plus and minuses also. Like we do have our cons and pros, but still we are special because of our diversified cultures, religions, languages. So when you're talking about neocolonialism, you should talk about the pluralistic, how pluralistic is the India. And we always work our alternatives. English education was meant to enlighten. That's why even the Britishers are gone, we are still learning English, but because we are not against of something good. We are only against of our freedom. In free India too, we must know what to do with the English, right? English is an asset, as we know, as we should use it to our advantages. So we should really take an English language and praise it, and just sleep with it, drink with it, eat with it. No, we do have some. We should keep a standardized notion. What is a standardized notion? English language is for career and for living. So we should respect our native diversified cultures, religions, and and simultaneously we should understand the importance of the language, and we just keep it for the career sake, for the living sake, for the welfare of the people, and English for the projecting an idea, identity, our identity. So when you're talking about neocolonialism is what after the independence. This is after our independence. So what are we doing with the English after independence? So when you talk about English in the post independence India, one important task in the new educational system is the bridging of the gap between the languages of India and the one hand, and the English language and in English educated in India. So, what I'm trying to say here is, when you talk about English language in neo-colonialism, like post-independence India, you should be able to bridge the gap. You should be able to handle, balance our language, our languages, our culture, and in also in the education system, and English language in the education system. So we should know how much to take, how much to leave. So our critical questioning, contemplation, and consciousness raising must start with an interface of the languages, literatures, and knowledge systems of the subcontinent, as that is English. A proper and matured dialogue used in the yoking of the culture. What is yoking? Okay. So yeah. Yeah, can you see post independence India? Are you able to see?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So we spoke about the pluralistic thing. You understand what is pluralistic. So when you are discussing about the neocolonialism, you will say what is colonism. That means every powerless take care. I mean, will go on. Every powerless has to take care of the powerless. They'll come to, you know. control over the powerless. They'll take that, they'll do the trade, they'll do the business, whatever it is, they'll do that thing. So it is there from the time, from the universe has started, from the man has started, the powerless has control over the powerless. So when you talk about the colonialism, you have to say the changes, then next comes all the changes where, when the powerless has to, when the powerful has to imply some rules, you have to abide to them, and then you go with the rules, and then the cultural mingles happens, something will come, the new languages will come up, the religion things, everything you have to discuss there. And then you have to talk about the etymological hierarchy of the colonialism, then from where did it start, and what are the words what are the new words has turned up. And then when you're talking about colonialism, when you should talk about the India, you will say that how special is India with the diversified cultures, languages, and everything. We are always welcome to learn something, take something, and we are ready for everything. Indian people are such kind of people, they are ready to take everything. So that is the only reason that we are, even the Britishers are gone, this English still is there in our country. So because they know that Indian language, sorry, English language is a global phenomena, and there are huge wide range of opportunities mm, for the English language. So they don't want it to leave English. So what happens when there is no standardized notion? So yeah, now they understood that English language is must. So what they'll do, they'll sleep, they'll drink English, they'll sleep, they'll worship English? No, they have to have some certain rules, they have to put a standardization there. Then the notion should be standardized, where, till where, and what, where is the end point of this English. So there are so many scholars and philosophers coming up with the new ideologies, telling that some people are so mad about English, so that they are tend to forget their native languages and their cultures. They're forgetting their own languages, they are not giving much importance to that language. So our Indian people were, thinking to standardize the notions of the English language. So after the post Indian independence, that is what it is, neocolonialism. So they are trying to balance, they are trying to balance in the languages. What are the languages, whatever the native language of any Indian person is, and then the language there, it is English. So how we should standardize it? So can this be only to the context of the education, or what it is? So let us discuss what happened in this, in what are the new ideologies they are talking about the post independence. So there here we are coming up the word called yoking. What is this yoking? The yoking is nothing but the two systems of knowledge must result in critical and creative contemplation and expression. The yoking of two systems of knowledge must be result in critical, creative contemplation and expression. So pride and pleasure should be balanced hand in hand. Three important functions for the right use of English is English for career and living, English for the welfare of the people, and English for projecting your identity. So, th- uh, after independence, after we got independence, what is the character English language is playing here? So it has to bridge the gap, narrow down the communication gap created by the colonial divide, and result in the productive plowing of a fertile field. That is called yoking. So what is yoking here? Yoking is a narrow down the communication gap. Who created this gap? This gap has created by the British, that is called colonial divide, and result in the productive plumbing. So then we have divided it, and now then let's fertile it, and let's yoke it, and let's keep it as a beneficial to the society at large, and creative a level field for the players. Who are the players? We Indians are the players here. So English in post India, they are trying to yoke it. What is yoking? Yoking is like whatever the wrong ideologies, whatever the wrong notations which are not helpful, which are not benefit for the Indians, remove all those things and then bridge the gap and then see what it is useful in order to balance the native diversity of Indian languages and also the language which we have to build our career with. So yoking this thing and making the field, making the society, that is making the field and creative level for the players. The critical awareness result from the interface will make one section of the society realize that English interface is meant to remove the illusions in the minds of some of our teachers of English who think that only by exposing our learners to the language and values in the great literary pieces in English, the English language can be taught effectively. It is meant to make such teachers realize that they are indulging only in self satisfaction and self deception, and the substandard, bizarre guides with the blessings of the benevolent Greek gods, Jupiter guides, Minerva model, Apollo questions and answers, Venus victory notes, etc. Very successfully, subvert advocates fall upon the thorns of the life and bleed in the classroom loudly and profusely, but all alone. Even the other teachers and educationalists must be made to realize that the present examination centered education results only in reduction and reproductions without any understanding or thinking, critical or creative. What matters is the right answer and the ability to memorize and reproduce the right answer in the examination using whatever methods that can adopt. That is the yoking of the two systems of the knowledge must result in critical and creative contemplation and expressions. The blend of two systems must be done in such a way that it helps us to reinstate our pride and pleasure in our own mental efforts that was swept away, annihilated and depressed by the calculated moves of the rulers, and to regain our lost confidence. What is here regain lost confidence is nothing but the confidence which we felt that we don't have when the European countries were ruling our country, and we have lost our own confidence in our own land. So to just regain the things and also blending with the new era of ideas, to taking balancing it and taking it in a proper way, it is nothing but the yoking. It must make us generate our own ideas and the expressions in which to clothe them. Our learners must be made to talk about our rich traditions in language as well as in literature, and also in philosophy, in sciences, traditions that can engage the best in the Western. So we should talk about, we should not, it is saying that we should not only talk about our Shakespeare, John Milton, and all those Western writers, but also we should talk about our Indian writers. There are so many writers globally. I mean, not globally, I mean to say in India, whether you take all the Dravidian languages or in the north side, west side, east side, all our philosophers or thinkers, writers spread over all over India. So we have to come up with those literature also. For example, we should know that the Panini or these great Tamilian writers who wrote, we already discussed about the writers who wrote the Mahabharata, Ramayana. We should speak about those people and telling the importance of those people. These involves a massive translation project also, a project that has to be incorporated in our educational system. We must at present train an army of translators or interpreters. Mm, it is we should also kind of we spoke about the statement called Indian by blood, but English by taste and color. So something like that we heard about that. So when in the post independence, like neocolonialism, we are saying it as a class of persons, Indian in blood and color, and also not Western, also Indian in taste and in opinions and in morals and in intellectual. This is the thing we are trying to bring up in the post independence time. So when we said that only Indian by color is and taste and morals from Western, so that has taken away, that was swept away, and now we are get coming up with a new statement called a class of persons, Indian in blood and color, and also Indian in taste, in opinions, in morals, in intellectuals. That if you see here deeper, that means you are trying to give English a broader importance, big importance, but to a certain level you are standardizing it, you are keeping your boundaries, you are setting your um, standards there. So English language is a language, is a literate it is a literature language, technology, science, media, everything has included in it. But still you're keeping it to you're putting a standards and telling that you are an Indian, you love your Indian languages, you love your India colors, and you're taking English as it has a market, as it has an identity, it has some ideologies. So you're giving importance to English in a career level based, or for the welfare purpose, or for the identity purpose. So in free India too, we must know what to do with the English. So that is what we are. This topic is all about. English is an asset, and we should use it to our own advantage. The blend of two systems must be done in such a way that it helps to reinstate our pride and pleasure. So that's what you have to understand here. Okay. So. And when you talk about English, so we got a slight idea of what is this post independence doing in what is English is doing in post independence time. So now we have to say that we have to understand that English language is only English language is only if you take a part in the if you talk about education, English language is market driven language, welfare driven language. So what is market driven language? What are you getting from market driven language? For practical purpose, for effective communication, for living in complex competitive contemporary world, for mobility, for exploiting opportunities, for career. This is what it is meant for market driven for living. So welfare driven for living, what is that meant for the welfare of the society as a whole, and not for the welfare of any one group. So not taking biased statements when it comes to if you think over, when it comes to caste and religion, people try to take a biased decisions. So when it is come to welfare driven, you should talk about the whole group, whole India, not to one certain group. So that is what it is, for the welfare of the society as a whole, and not for the welfare of any one group. Individual, for commitment to the community and the country, for national aspirations. This is about welfare driven for life. So when you talk about ideology driven projections, there are three more sections you need to discuss about. What are these ideology driven projections? For contemplation, for critical and creative thinking, resulting in a dialogue between the East and West, between various languages, regions, communities, etc., within the country, bridging the gap between the rural and the urban India. Project our national and local identities in English as well as in the Indian languages. Understand each other and then blending with the situation. From labs to land, translation and original writing, enriching the quality of life and creating a level field for all, dissemination of the knowledge, enriching the languages of India. We need a think tank to put the flesh and blood to the skeleton given above. We need a planning commission for education, like in the field of economic planning, since planning education forms the basis for economic planning. Planning education properly in the field of physical sciences and human sciences is fundamental to the process of decolonization. Unplanned growth, development in education, as it is happening in the country today, can only perpetuate and universalize the colonial pattern of the education. So, when you're talking about the post neocolonialism English in the after the freedom, so you talk about the English language is meant for market driven, and then you'll talk about the ideology driven, and then the social welfare. So there are few factors broadly we can discuss about the market driven welfare, social welfare, and the ideology welfare. So you talk about the yokening when you talk about the neocolonialism. You'll talk about the pluralistic, which is nothing but the balancing the balancing the gap between the two things. So market driven, when you talk about market driven, learners of the English in India know that English is not the only language for shaping one's character, for developing aesthetic senses. So when you talk about market driven, I'm talking about market driven. When you talk about market driven, it is you know that what is market driven. You may get jobs when you learn English. So that's what it is, overall picture. So you discuss, you elaborate. Learners of Indian, when you talk about Indians, know that English is not the only language for shaping one's character, for developing aesthetic sense, our cultivating creative and critical thinking, or for getting civilized. All these functions can be effectively performed by our own languages used in India. Indian languages and their literature have a very much humanizing tradition. We do not need English for these purposes. What are the purposes? English is necessary for the mobility, social, and economic purpose, for job opportunities. English is a language that opens the doors of a global market. We know all this. We discussed, like, any topic is just like a circle of life. You'll come again under the globalization. You start the topic, but you have to end it somehow. All the topics are all the same things, which conclude with the different points. As an international language, English has a lot of surrender value throughout the world, and learners of the English can cash on it. Market is nothing but the cash and capitalism, how much you're constituting. This is why there is a great demand of courses in spoken English, effective writing, businesses, call writing, medical transcriptions. And nowadays you can also take nowadays examples like content writing, copywriting, teaching in English, whether here or in abroad or in any sort of country. So everything is a market driven examples that you can give. The market for the literary English and the English literature based on the humanistic ideology and liberal education is fast dwindling, making such efforts meaningless. So this is what about the market. You can write and elaborate how much as ever you want. When we talk about welfare driven, what is English role in this welfare driven? Learners of English in India have realized that English is a window on the world. and access to the growing fund of knowledge in science and technology. Market, we have already discussed. When we come to welfare, it is saying that when welfare purpose, it is saying that science and technology, English is a language of science and technology. As a study group report says that richness of the language, we should be able to exploit the richness of the of this language to the advantage of a major Indian languages. So it is not just worshipping English, it is saying that we should be able to exploit the English language as all the necessary information in any branch of the knowledge, whether it is agriculture or it is economics, it may be commerce, business, stock markets, consumer products, history, space technology, biotechnology, etc. These all topics, science and technology, will come under the welfare, which is readily available also in the internet. English is an exploding language in the world of the information explosion. We need to profit from the stock of knowledge and information available in English. Indian languages are rich in certain areas, like as we spoke earlier, as I said earlier, that also talking about the native languages of their richness. So Indian languages are rich in certain areas like philosophy, religion, literature, etc. In the same way, English is not going to replace Indian languages. Indian language has their own weightage, and English as well. So English will not replace our native language. That's what it is meant to be. Indian languages in the areas of intimacy. English can never be the language of intimacy. For see, whatever it is, now we are talking in English. So for example, if you take me, the live example, I'm speaking to you in English. Once I've come, put on my laptop, I'll go talk to my family with Telugu. So English can never be the language of intimacy. What is intimacy? It's nothing but the home language. So but when it comes to communication skills, when you talk about communication skills, there in the globalization. So if you are not talking, if you are not communicating, you are not going to get English. So that is a different. That is a different thing. But here, when you talk about English language is only a welfare market and ideology driven, then you say that English can never be the language of intimacy, that is which home language you love to express with your family members, whoever it is beside you, you love to express in your home language, that is your mother tongue. So in you, English is not never an intimacy language for us as an Indians. I mean non-native speakers. Areas such as religious discourses or prayer, you want to pray, you cannot do it in English. So that's why these examples will tend to, can you can write for the when you talk about the intimacy of the English language. So that's why that's why you can say that English is a market language or street language, the language of transition, of modernization, but not westernization. You mentioned that, but not westernization. So we are not nowhere talking here about the Western exploitation here. We are talking about the English language and English language here. Nowhere we are nowadays saying that English is a British language or English is an American. English is a global language. No one can say that this is English is our language. So that is because of the new Englishes is formed. So the language of transaction, the language of market language, the language, it is a street language of modernization, but not westernization. We need English to make agriculture in India more technologically modern. That is why we have trained English as a language of instruction in our agricultural universities, though English is not the language of agriculture in India. In management and technology, also we need English. In agriculture, we need English. In management and technology, we need English. We need English in the engineering colleges, in universities, in NEET, wherever it is. In the education field, we need English. In the universities, we need English. In agricultural universities, we need English. We need to use the resource of English to enrich the modern Indian languages. We need to active the process of percolation from the lab to the land by using English as a source language. English should play a catalytic role or a social welfare as well as a social transformation role in the contemporary India and not a literary role in the days of the British Raj. An interface between Indian languages and English can be the advantage of the vast majority of non-English knowing people in India who at present are exploited by the English knowing majority in urban areas. As simple as that. That is what we are talking about the colonism. But colonism when we talk about, when we heard or when somebody strike the word called colonism, you tend to think that the European countries have made termed this word, and there from there it has coined. But vast majority, even now in India, English knowing people in India who are at present now are exploited. By whom? The English knowing majority in urban areas, and from non-English knowing majority from rural areas. So there again the colonial thing arises. So rural India should get the technological advantage, which is now only with English India. So if you are want to get development in the rural areas, knowledge, you should use technology, smartphone, whatever it is, you have to know English. So rural India, whatever the rural areas are there in India, should get the technological advantage, which is now only in the hands of English language. This alone can empower the masses. This English language can alone empower the masses. The teaching and learning of English in India should become an agent of social change and produce a class of Indians not only in blood, Indians not only in India and color, but in tastes, in opinions, in attitudes, and in intellect. A class of Indians who will be socially responsible, productive, and committed to the cause of nation building. As a group, as a study group report points out, to use English as a source language, with 1 second, before you go, I'll just have a screenshot. I'll forget. Okay, so when you talk about ideology driven, learners of English in India have realized that English is necessary to talk about their own identity, their languages and literatures, their cultures and their values, their land, their family, whatever it is. When you want to talk about your identity, it is then said to be as an ideology driven. That this identity projection function was done during the struggle from independence becomes one of the important objectives of teaching and learning English in India. This actually reverses one of the roles that English has played so far, being a window on the world. We must use English to create window on India. So we should use, when we saying that English is a window on the world. English language, we say that that is a window on the world. So when it comes to India, we should say that English is window on the world, that we should say English window on the India, so that the world can see India in a proper perspective. So when whatever they thought before, they have a different, Britishers have a different perspective about Indians. So they have some wrong perspective. So it has, maybe it has spread widely, thinking that Indians are that, this whatever it is, the wrong perspectives. So when you're taking English language to show your identity, to prove your identity, to tell yourself, then you can say that you should be saying that English language is a window of India. When you try to present that as a language, as an Indian, so that the world can see India in a proper perspective. India is not just the land of Maharajas, godmen, snake charmers. It is a land of Panini, Bharathari, Nagarjuna, Shankara, Ramanuja, Madhava. So Aryabhatta, Bhaskara, we know all these great intellectual Jains who we have, who can engage the best in Western thought. But the image of India has not been properly projected before independence. Now, after post independence, that means now after independence, we should be projecting India. How? With the language called English. So we should show India with the language English, that is the window of India. So whatever the perceptions, whatever the perceptions the universe had, the global people had about Indians before, we need to change. We should not only talk about the rurals who ruled over the Indians, and their wrong things. They only India is a country of snake charmers, the magicians, or whatever the godmans are, the Maharajas are, the Memsabs are. But India is also the place where the Aryabhatta, Bhaskara, Jayadeva, most of the intellectual Jains who can engage the best in the Western thought, but the image of Indian has not been properly projected. This, when you want to project our Indian intellectuals, when you say, when you want to voice out, when you want to put out your views, so when you want to show your identity, your country identity, your place identity, the points that you come up with, so you are doing that in you are doing that in which language? That is called English. English, a project that has to be incorporated in our educational systems. This translation project is not confined to translating from one language to the another. It is a project meant to interrupt India to the world outside. It is meant to translate India to the West. It is also for translating and interpreting one's own state or community to others, even when the country, so that even within the country, not only outside the country, you have to project yourself in the country, even within the country, so that the proper understanding and the interaction may takes place within the country. Only Indians who are competent in English can do it effectively. There is also a very bigger market for this, like the one for, sorry, Indian writing in English. So the market driven, the ideology driven, and the welfare driven. We discussed all these things. So these demands, these three demands is essential to design various courses that can satisfy different kinds of consumers at various levels of living. A sincere attempt must be made to find alternative methods and evolution systems which will promote the alternative ideology that has been outlined above. This will be like a second freedom movement. The first freedom movement was our independence. If we are ideology driven, that means alternative ideology. If we are taking English and India simultaneously together, going in hand, giving importance to our nation, as well as giving importance to the English language. And we should be knowing where to stop ourselves with the language India. So when we standardize ourselves with all these perspectives, not just praising and going back of Indian language like hutch dog, just putting these boundaries for ourselves, and bringing up with the new ideologies, coming up with the new ideologies, and this will turn out to be called as a second freedom movement, involving a large number of men and women, professionally committed and competent teachers, materials producers who can write effective programs for teaching and testing and finding methodologies that are appropriate to our own conditions, not for the Western, to our own conditions. In short, English teaching must result in social transformation. For this, what we have to do for this, we should evolve a model that will capture the synergic processes of language learning based on the Indian ways of language learning, appropriate and correct speaking on the basis of oral practice. Oral and oral practice, memorization and recitation that is not just mechanical, but based on the principles of reciting and describing of text, thinking, inquiring, and contemplative communication. So we do we do the demands of these essential whatever the designed English language speaking things, other the market driven, the welfare, the ideology, these demands should be met should be met with the alternative ideologies. This can be also called a second freedom. If we come up with these things, if we standardize our English learning or English writing, whatever it is, if we standardize, we are going to bring up the if we are going to bring up with the new ideologies, English will become a um, based language for a number of domains like education, in bureaucracy, in the communication, whether it is a government companies, private companies, or in the print media. We can also do the creative writing in English. We just like our intellectuals have done, the writers, whoever the R.K. Narayan, Mulk Rajanand, Raja Ramohan Rai, so on, became internationally recognized because of this market driven ideologies. Because of our market driven ideologies, we if we want to show even our Indian writers have the market, just not the Western writers. So on these things, if we concentrate to come up with English post Independence Day, so post independence in India, so these points you have to cover. These are the roles assigned to English in contemporary world. Whatever the English language was an instrument for setting up the state called India by the British, but the very plurality idea, that is which is nothing but Indian necessity, is the use of English in Indian subcontinent. The Constitution of India is written in English. All the reports of the commissions were written in English. English functions as a base of the bureaucracy, judiciary, academic work, science and technology, intellectual management activities, and the medium even in the agricultural and sciences and print media and so on. So you need to, it is nothing but you need to, after independence, in spite of like Angrezi Hatao, there is a movement called Angrezi Hatao. After independence, they don't want English to be the language in Indian land. So English education and English language have spread like a wildfire. There is no way of removing English or taking away English from the country. During the close of the century, English medium schools are found in every street corner. And the job market depends on one's communication skills in English. So education has become totally market driven, and mostly career oriented courses are in demand. This is what about is English in post India. This topic is in your fourth, sorry, I think it's fourth unit. So I did covered the English boom in India also in the block 4. So I have to cover the committees and commissions, and then during World Wars, the struggle for Independence Day. So I'll be taking the important topics, so that you'll get a glimpse and gist of the topics, so that when you read, you understand the topics and elaborate it. So I'll end the class here now. So you understand, when some people who are reading textbooks, you can go with the block 5. You've done with the block 5. You have done with block 1, block 2, and in block 4 we also done with the English boom in India. Even we covered that topic. So there are few committees and commissions left over. I'll discuss this tomorrow, and then for the next week we'll finish off this institutionalization phase. All right. If you want me to give any as important questions, I can do that. Whatever it is, please get back to me. If you want, somebody wants to ask something.
No, man, everything is clear.
Oh, okay, done then. Chalo, we'll wind up the class now. Thanks for listening. I'll catch you tomorrow with the different topics like committees and commissions. Globalization is done. English language speaking in India, what happened before independence, after independence, now what is the standardization that we are keeping for ourselves, and how we are using English language as so these things all we discussed. We discussed also the communication skills. I think that is an important question there. So neo-colonialism, we also discussed that. So let us tomorrow discuss about commissions, everything. So do you have, if you have any doubt, please ask me in the end of the class. Now I'm winding up. I think you all no, you don't have any queries, questions. So or if it is all good, I'll just no close the session. All right, then take care. We'll meet in the next session.